morning, world. How's it going? You're watching the John and Alex Show. I'm Alex.
And I'm John. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So today we're going to talk to you about travel. I know some people have got some travel plans ready for the holidays. And John, I know you do too. I guess I do as well.
Yeah.
So we want to talk a little bit about our travel experiences, some of the trips that we have coming up, and a few travel tips that we've gained over the years.
Yeah, I love travel. I don't know about you, Alex. You know, I haven't actually, I wasn't born into travel, you know. It was one of those things, my family, when I was young, we literally took one family trip together to Maui, and that was it. So I wasn't born into this culture of travel. I think it's pretty common amongst people here in Hawaii. You know, they don't often leave the rock.
Sure, so. Yeah, I guess it's difficult to get off the island sometimes when you're surrounded by all this water.
You're from Hilo. Is your experience the same with your friends, and do they travel often, or is it kind of a Hawaii thing?
You know, my family and we did travel, but we didn't explore very much. So my mom is originally from Japan. So when I was growing up, I would often go back and forth to Japan. In fact, when I was 8 years old was the first time I flew alone. And it was all the way to Japan to stay with my grandparents for about a month and a half and go to school there. And I would actually end up doing that every year throughout the rest of my elementary school days, and often go with my younger brother or my younger sister. And so we have had lots of experience flying, but a lot of it is to the same place. And I definitely fly inter-island a lot. You know, I'm from the Big Island and I live here in Oahu, so I go back and forth between Hilo and Oahu. So I'm very used to sitting on planes and, you know, going through TSA and all that kind of stuff. But as far as going to many different places, I only have a few places on my list. Okay,
Japan was probably one of the countries that changed my life, I think. You know, and it was actually just a couple years ago that it was my first trip to Japan. And I feel like there was an Anthony Bourdain's, I think it was No Reservations, his episode of Tokyo. And he was, the opening scene is basically him sitting at a bar and saying how Tokyo was like life-changing when he first went to Tokyo. It was like life-changing. So I feel the same. Just it was like that systematic chaos for me. And ever since that experience, I was like, how can I consume more of that? Because it makes me feel so alive, you know, navigating, using different languages, connecting with other people, engages my brain. So I mean, I'm weird like that.
No, I love it. I completely understand. I mean, having gone to Japan at such a young age, it did, of course, change my life. I just thought that was normal because, you know, I was going through a lot of changes.
Sure.
But I'm definitely very thankful for that experience. And since then, I actually did a year-long study abroad in Japan, where I got to travel a lot more within the country, and even hop on over to Korea. And I have also done a little bit more traveling to the mainland, continental U.S., and I've also been to Israel.
Awesome.
So yeah, I've done, you know, like a little bit of going around and learning new things, meeting different people, and it's always such an eye-opening experience to travel.
Awesome. If you're just tuning in, you're watching the John and Alex Show. Today's topic is travel, and it's episode number 10 for us.
Woo!
So looking forward to getting in there. If you're watching live on the YouTube live channel, please feel free to contribute to the chat, join the conversation, or on Facebook if you're following either Alex or I. And yeah, so shall we dive in?
Sure. So I know you've got a trip coming up. Where are you going, John?
I do, actually. So I have Taipei and Tokyo planned.
Okay.
So Taipei is a combination of just exploring different industries, some import-export business, sightseeing, and then also the milk tea documentary, Milk and Tea, that I'm working on.
Cool.
So my plan is to actually visit the birthplace of milk tea and actually visit one of the restaurants where it originated, hopefully even talking to the person who helped to pioneer the popular Taiwanese drink. And then heading over to Tokyo. It's one of my favorite cities. It's going to be my 5th time there. And some business that I'm building for Very Night Tokyo, and just visiting friends, and also going to be my first time experiencing New Year's in a foreign country. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Exciting.
You know, New Year's in Japan is very different from here. And it's a lot of fun. Actually, New Year's extends between January 1st through the 3rd.
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of different activities that you can be doing. A lot of times, most families in Japan will cook all of their food on the 31st, so they don't have to cook until after the 4th.
Nice. Maybe I should extend my trip to
yeah.
We'll see.
I think it'll be fun.
I feel like this trip is going to change a little. I might edit. I may add another country in there. I'm thinking about maybe South Korea or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, it's on the way from Taiwan.
It's only a hop, skip, and a jump away.
That's what I love about being in Asia. There's so many different areas around the way, and I always go to Tokyo I've been to Kobe also, so Kansai, and there's so much more to Japan that I need to see.
Oh
so
yes,
I
definitely.
definitely need to venture out.
Cool.
Yeah. Any travel coming up for maybe not only for holiday season but for 2016?
Oh man, I hope so.
Okay.
I'm gonna be going to the Big Island for Christmas break, so I'm excited to go back and see family. But I would like to take another trip to the continent.
Declare it.
Yeah, or internationally. So gotta start planning, get some New Year's resolutions going.
It's one of those things. Whenever I feel like traveling, I just set my mind to it. I create a calendar entry for it, and then I just start telling people about it. It always, a client will come up from that region, or if it's like a certain project or something will come up that deals exactly with the reason why I want to go.
Yeah.
It always happens, every time. Visualization, as you put your mind to it, the universe listens. I'm serious about that.
Travel tip number 1: visualize it and do it.
Set a date, declare it,
Yeah.
and just set the intention, 100% intention that you're gonna be there.
I've got to do that. All right.
Yeah.
My friends and I have been talking about a graduation trip for a long time now. So
to where?
Either Japan or Thailand.
Thailand. Sounds
Yeah, my friend hasn't been to Japan, so I'd love to show her around.
How about both?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, both in Asia. So.
Yeah, we actually wanted to feature Lanai Tabora. Actually, he has a travel club called Lanai's Travel Club. He couldn't make it on this early. However, if you're looking for an amazing adventure and you're looking for a fun guy to actually just be in another country with, Lanai, many of you may know him. He's a popular personality here. He has a cooking show called Cooking Hawaiian Style, and just probably one of the hardest workers that I know. Like, this guy's constantly hustling, so many different things going on. So Lanai's Travel Club, check it out if you want to go somewhere. He has some interesting insight about travel also.
Okay.
And I was up at like 2 a.m. this morning and I came across a few quotes about travel. And everyone says that they want to travel. I have so many friends that are like, I want to travel, and they don't really travel. They're going out buying bottle service and doing other things. So it's kind of like, travel actually isn't all that expensive. A lot of people think it's unattainable, and it's actually a lot more attainable than you think.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can travel on a budget, and we're going to try to talk a little bit about some of those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, it's really, finding airfare is the first big price that people kind of freak out about. Right. And of course, there are things that you can do. You can get miles through different credit cards. You can also look at some nifty new apps and websites that John is about to share with you to get some better deals on some.
I am by far not a travel pro. So I'm just going to share some of my own experiences about, websites that I use and stuff. So one of my favorite go-to places is actually Kayak. Many of you already know, and heard of Kayak as a website. They also have hotels and flights. I like to use Kayak because it allows you to do multi-city trips. For example, I can just do like a trip to Haneda, and I can choose my departure date, and it automatically pre-fills the information in for me if I want to go to Korea and choose a destination. I can just search for it, and it pulls up a compilation of different prices, and you can sort it depending on different filters. So if you have a specific airline that you want to fly with, you can totally do that on Kayak. Another way that I like to actually search is to just do Google, and I'll just do like HNL to Haneda, like HND, and it'll bring up, especially on mobile, this is a really great experience. You can just choose your date range, and it automatically shows you like a calendar view of dates and prices. So I really like that feature.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I like to do when I'm kind of just browsing and thinking about traveling. Okay, like, how much is this going to cost? I know. And I know I've heard of several other apps, like Hopper, I've heard of, that will kind of help you out. Or there are some kind of, I don't even know if this is legal, some hackers that will figure out those best flights by actually figuring out another destination that is past where you want to go, but it is cheaper somehow. So for instance, if you're trying to fly to Japan, and you end up booking a ticket to, let's say, China, and for us going that way, it would probably be, Japan would be like on the way. So it'll stop in Japan, then continue on its way to China. But when you stop in Japan, you just stay in Japan. But it turns out that the ticket is cheaper to fly to China than it is to Japan. This is just a hypothetical situation. But that's what some people do. And I've always found that really interesting. Especially sometimes if you're traveling farther, how is it that it's cheaper? But, you know.
It's interesting. I mean, even dates by the hour and by the day.
Yeah, definitely.
You travel on certain days. And I know that there's also formulas for booking your ticket out a certain amount of days.
Right.
Optimal rate.
Yeah.
For me, I usually just check and see. And when the rate is low, I just book it.
Yeah. It's good to check on the prices a lot, so you gotta have an idea of, okay, it's within this range, and so when you see a price that's pretty low, then you know, okay, that's a good deal. You know,
my experience has always been when you see a low price, book it, because it always goes up. That's my experience.
True.
It'll go up, like by the day. If I don't book something, it'll go up like $100 the next day. So I also know that United.com, which is the airline that I fly a lot, they allow you to do a fare lock, and you have a full refund within 24 hours. So you can book a flight, reserve it, and if you see something else within 24 hours, you can just do a straight up refund.
Nice, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And I usually get little updates from Expedia.com. And they'll give me the cheap flights of the day and whatnot. And I'm always like, oh, I don't want to be sitting at my desk right now. I need to be like booking a ticket, but I try to restrain myself.
Totally. So. I think a lot of the travel that I book also is somewhat impulse. You know? I'll get an email from Hawaiian or something. I think Hawaiian's probably the one that sticks out the most for me, because they always have these travel deals to the West Coast. Yeah. So it'll be like $318 round trip somewhere, and that'll get me in there, and then I'll always see the $318 prices. However, they do a really good job at email marketing. So maybe we can have someone from an airline on here, Alaska or Hawaii, or somebody should just talk about travel at some point.
Yes, actually.
Maybe even allow us to broadcast elsewhere. I don't know. I mean,
while you're in Taipei or something.
Well, I was just thinking that they could sponsor us.
Oh, if you're watching.
Well, yeah.
Well, so now that we have figured out some, travel tips as far as booking your flight, we want to share a few tips that we have, or some experiences that we have about travel once you're actually in that country or that state, that city. And one of the things that I think is becoming more and more important is being able to connect while you're there.
Absolutely.
Growing up, going internationally to Japan, I always remember, okay, here it's now time to completely disconnect from America. I can't use my phone. I can't connect. My grandparents' house didn't even have internet. So it was really like we would do long distance calls to contact my parents, or I'd actually write letters.
Wow.
Back in the day, I know, and just to contact my family, because I would be gone for like a month and a half, and it was a while to not be with your family, especially when you're 8 years old.
Right.
But now there's so many different ways that you can connect, and I actually went to Japan this past summer, and I actually got a SIM card that was from Japan, and I could use unlimited data while I was there.
You have an iPhone?
I have an iPhone, yes.
Okay. Does it have to be jailbroken or unlocked in order to use that?
I think it has to be unlocked, but it doesn't have to be jailbroken. Okay. Yeah, so essentially it's just like switching your SIM card out, and you can. It's a carrier that's in Japan, like SoftBank, or I think mine. I just went to CD Japan, I think. Okay. And they either have little Wi-Fi hotspots, or you can get a SIM card and get the data. And so I ended up doing that one.
How much did it cost? Do you remember?
I used it for about 2 weeks, and it was about $50.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, it isn't, and I think the Wi-Fi was a little bit cheaper as well.
Right.
So it really depends on how long you're going to be there and whatnot. But I think it's really important to have some way to connect. And I'm connecting to Siri right now. But even if you don't have that, you don't have to be completely, on airplane mode the entire trip anymore, because there are so many restaurants and retail places that have Wi-Fi. So if you're traveling internationally, remember to turn off the call roaming, data roaming, because that's going to charge you. Right. But if you turn that off and you turn your Wi-Fi on and you find a nice place that's got some free Wi-Fi, hey, go ahead and connect to it. Yeah. So I actually have a list of different restaurants and retailers that generally have free Wi-Fi. And some of these I'm sure you already know, like Starbucks and McDonald's. But there are other places as well, like Arby's, Denny's, Dunkin' Donuts, Einstein Bros. I mean, these are some restaurants that we don't even have in Hawaii, so it's good to know, because otherwise I wouldn't have even stepped in.
Right. And I mean, I would say that a lot of retailers and a lot of other places have Wi-Fi now because they want to lure you in.
Right, right.
What I used to do is I actually always usually sign up with AT&T International. So I just buy the data, and it can be expensive. It can be like $200. I do use a lot of data though. However, it's managing the data that I've found to be the tricky part. Right, so I'll always just take a break at a coffee shop and upload a few Instagram photos or check in, and sort of manage it that way. And for me also, especially with Snapchat and all these other networks, I like to be present with my trips. You know, so it can be kind of a drag when you're with people and they're all like in their phones, not with each other. So it's kind of nice to just take photos as we go, be disconnected, and then take a break and be like, take like 10 minutes just to post your stuff.
Keep updated, because I know, tell people what's going on at the end of the day, as a recap. But
plus the time differences are usually work out for your audience here in Hawaii. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the other place that usually has Wi-Fi are airports.
Right.
And so I have another list of different airports that have free Wi-Fi, or if they've got a paid plan. So you can check that out. The link itself we will put in the description of our video because it's kind of difficult to get the direct.
This is by Airfare Watchdog. So you could probably do a search for Airfare Watchdog Airport Wi-Fi Access Chart.
Yeah.
Like Alex said, we'll definitely post this in our description and in the comments so that you can check it out. My experience with airport Wi-Fi is that Honolulu's probably has the worst.
Look at that. Honolulu has like $6.95 for 2 hours, $8.95 for 24 hours. And there are like so many other places that are just free.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Vancouver was probably the fastest Wi-Fi experience at an airport. And, I usually like to also tweet the airports or mention the airports, and they're usually pretty responsive.
That's good, definitely. Yeah, I really think it's important to offer free Wi-Fi because the airport is a place that you have to get your bearings, really quickly, and to have Wi-Fi and to be able to know, okay, where's my hotel? How am I going to get there? What do I need to do now? I mean, people have freakouts at the airport, and it's good to rely on something like Wi-Fi. So, Honolulu Airport, get together.
What kind of traveler are you? Are you a freakout type? Are you a
No, not
type?
at
Are
all.
You super chill?
I'm like the super chill type. My mom's like the one that freaks out, and she's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" I'm like, "Mom, chill. I got this."
I think it has to do with sort of growing up in this digital age. We have access to GPS. It's not as scary, I guess, to drive. I remember going to other places before GPS and having to find my way through a map. It was hard, So now it's like GPS. There's no worry at all. I can just GPS it.
Sure. And even if you don't have online access at that time, if you kind of think ahead a little bit, do some good planning, you can find, it's especially important to look for maps when you are connected.
Yes.
One tip I found is if you're using Google Maps, what you can do is you can type in the search, once you find your location, you kind of have a picture of this place that you are trying to navigate, type in OK Maps. The letter O and K, maps, and it'll actually take a kind of like a screenshot or cache your screen. So when you go back to it, you're able to actually zoom in and out up to a certain distance, and take a look at that map as if you're online. So that's really important, and it's better than screenshotting because then you're actually able to zoom in more and find out more details. But getting those maps, and a lot of times transportation maps as well, like subways, metro, where they go, which lines to take, whatnot. That's important stuff to research and look up ahead of time. So when you are in the moment and you're like, okay, how do I get to where I'm going? You can take a look at that map and say, okay, if I take the red line here, then I'll eventually get to my destination. Yeah,
that's totally what I do. I'll pull up maps and I'll zoom into street level, zoom out, and I'll sort of load the entire area. Then I'll turn data roaming off, and it actually tracks, it still pings GPS. So I just follow the blue dot wherever I need to go, and I'm offline and not using any data. And it's sort of like a pocket GPS at that point. A lot of what you mentioned is itinerary planning.
Yes, yeah, it's important to plan.
So do you have any itinerary planning tips for us, or how do you plan your trips when you're planning to go somewhere?
I'm kind of a day-by-day person, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my general activity for today. I'm gonna see these friends. So when I have those things in mind, I kind of try to visualize, okay, how am I gonna get there? What is it gonna take for me to be at that place? How we're gonna meet each other? Where are we gonna be meeting? Whatnot? So I think as long as you have some idea of what you're doing and then think about the logistics or put more planning into the logistics and, you know.
Yeah, it takes like 5 minutes to plan out your morning, you know, just to figure out where things are. I always have a pin that goes back to the hotel and then where the train station is if it's in a metro area. And then I'll have my pins out for all the popular destinations.
Yeah.
I'll usually come up with a document that has their Instagram names, Twitter names, and all that stuff, and their hashtags they're using, just so that I'm planned ahead.
That's some careful planning.
Yeah, so, I mean, it pays off pre-production in anything you do.
That's true. That's true.
To be planned, well planned.
So are you the type to really lay out a full itinerary?
I have an outline, so it's not super detailed. I'll have if you actually, you know, if you want to know what's going on in a place, you can just Google, you know, things to do in whatever city or country you're going to, and usually has a list of places of interest, points of interest, which is awesome because it categorizes it by popularity directly on Google, which I use that all the time. So I'll pick out my itinerary or pick out my activities, and then I'll sort of plan it depending on proximity from the hotel or the type of activity it is. If something's going to take longer, I'll include less on the day. If they're short things like in London, you know, London Eye, Big Ben, and all those things are in one area, so we can bang those out in one day.
Nice.
So that's sort of how I approach it. I have used an app called Tripit before, and I'm not sure if you've heard of Tripit before.
I think I have.
Yeah, it's a really cool app. Actually, it allows you to put in your flight details. It allows you to put in all of your itinerary details and actually book different activities through it and all that stuff. There's a free version, and then there's a Tripit Pro version, which is for a little over $4 a month, and it allows you to sync travel plans with other people and, you know, get different fare refunds. You can actually do all kinds of stuff through Tripit. It's actually kind of like a activity trip aggregator.
Wow.
And then of course it's ad-free if you go for the 30-day version. So I really like it. I've used the free version before. It's nice. For me, I just like to have a little bit more control over it, and I tend to not be as structured, you know, so I like to just have a Pages document up and running, and then I'll just edit that. So that's
Very cool.
But I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. So what kind of traveler are you? You know, when you go, like, what types of things do you like to see?
You know, I like to just sort of explore openly. You know, when I was in Paris, art obviously is a huge, museums are a huge thing. I like museums. I like to see the sort of the key things at different museums.
Okay.
So if it's a museum, I like to just experience the environment, sort of take it all in, and then if there are main activities there, I'll just hit the highlights and the rest. It's kind of serendipitous. You know, if I find something along the side of the road, I'll go there. You know, when I was in Paris, one of the coolest things that I found was an open market. And you know, we just decided to go to the open market like every morning, and that was totally not planned because it was just people would bring their stuff in. There's all this antique, like stamp books and all kind of cool stuff. I found this Polaroid camera back there for like 10 euro or something. So, so that's the kind of traveler I am. I usually like to do a show. I'll look for some of the top places to eat, you know, and sort of figure it out. It depends on who I'm traveling with too. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Totally.
You know, who you're traveling with.
Right. I generally travel like with my family or alone. Okay. So I like to find people while I'm there. Okay. Or if I know friends that have friends there, like when I went to South Korea, I had a friend that I was studying with, and she was originally from Korea. So while she was still in Japan, she hooked me up with a couple of her friends, and they took me around, which was very helpful because I didn't speak the language. Yeah. But you know, for the rest of the trip, I found a hostel, and I would try to meet some people that could speak English. And even when I'm within, you know, the U.S., like when I went to New York or D.C., I did have people that I was with, but not the entire time, and so I would kind of explore a little bit and figure out things on my own. I like to travel and see that place like the local does. Right. So generally what I'll do, you know, just to kind of keep up like a workout routine is I'll go for a run in the park or something. Or when I was in New York, I did like a free week pass at a gym. Nice. And I feel like once you do that, you get into this routine of like, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to the gym, you know, catch a subway over there. Yeah. But then it makes you feel like, oh, I'm a New Yorker, you know, or like I'm part of the city. I'm doing a lot of the same tasks that these people would do on their day-to-day basis, or even checking out local grocery stores. It's really interesting to see what they sell there, how much they sell it for, and it does make you feel a little bit more like you live there by doing certain things that here we might consider mundane, but when you're traveling, it just seems really fascinating.
You know, one of the things that always fascinated me are the different McDonald's in different
Yeah,
countries.
totally.
You know, McDonald's in Switzerland, they serve these French fries in a certain way. They're like a certain cut, and their burgers are totally different. Japan, obviously,
Japan
packaging is next level.
Right.
They'll wrap the drink for you.
Oh gosh.
Even
the restaurant layout itself.
Yeah, that's always interesting to see how different chains vary by country and how they cater to different tastes. Obviously, in Hawaii, things are a little different. Things like taro pie, and I'm sure they don't have everywhere else.
All this Portuguese sausage and rice.
Fruit punch, right? Fruit punch they don't have anywhere else.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Okay. And I remember I used to enjoy Kat Toth's travels. She would always go to McDonald's and
nice.
find something new, which is really, really cool. So so I mean, a lot of what you were saying, like I don't know, I don't know if I would ever stay in a hostel. That's really cool.
I've seen. Well, I guess it's because like, you know, I'm young and adventurous, but I've stayed at many hostels.
Okay. I like to stay at hotels. Do you have a certain place that you like to book your hotels through, or are you an exclusive hostel visitor?
Please, I don't stay at a hotel unless it's getting paid for.
Hotels are really expensive.
They are. They're super expensive.
Yeah, it was probably the biggest expense when I went to Europe. I was in Europe for about a month last year, and it was one of the largest expenses out of it. You know, thinking about it now, Airbnb or staying at a friend's house, making friends probably be a better idea. I like to use hotels.com only because they have some pretty good rates, and I really like the user experience of their website. One of the things that I do like is they allow you to book certain hotels depending on where you're staying. You can book in advance, and you don't have to actually pay till you get there. And then also you can actually cancel it up to the day before without being charged. So I remember going to Italy and all these other places, and I had to change different locations because I wasn't sure where I was going to go. So I was able to cancel and book another hotel, and they didn't charge me anything. And as you book hotels or rooms through hotels.com, you also get different points.
That's awesome.
So I was able to earn some free rooms, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really cheap for New York.
I know. I was just looking at that. I'm like,
is that a hostel? Sometimes it's tricky. That some of these places have like shared bathrooms and stuff. This doesn't look like a shared bathroom. This looks really nice. Yeah,
some places. I have stayed at some hotels because you can really run the gamut, right? Yeah. And it all depends on what kind of experience you're looking for. Sure. When I was traveling previously, sometimes I was looking to meet new people and just kind of explore a little bit more. So hostels were a better choice for me, or a better fit, I should say. But now I think I'm going to try to use like Airbnb and whatnot. And like I mentioned, most of the time I try to find a friend in the city and stay at their place. Yeah. Or I have a lot of family, a lot of places I've traveled to, I have a distant relative or something. So even when I was in Israel, I did a tour first, and then I stayed with like a third cousin for a couple days on a kibbutz, and that was a whole new experience. Yeah, it was like a communal, Okay. Yeah, it was cool.
I want to do an RV trip next year.
Oh,
either across the U.S., so starting in LA and going to the East Coast, or New Zealand. From south to north or north to south. Yeah. I don't know why. Not a lot of people want a road trip.
Well, I think it's because we're on an island. We don't get road trips. I mean, the farthest you can get here is like North Shore or go around the island.
I love driving.
The whole thing will take like 4 or 5 hours, right? So yeah.
Maybe less. You probably drive around the island in an hour here.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I guess because coming from the Big Island takes a bit more than that.
Sure. It's it's much bigger. So.
But anyhow, we'd like to know what you think about travel, what your experiences are, and if you've got any travel tips, we would really like to know. Especially this guy, considering you're traveling in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, traveling in a couple weeks. Would love your tips.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. A lot of the travel that I do, I align with business somehow. So I'm always meeting someone. Awesome. Always doing some business development in another place. So, it's make it meaningful.
Totally. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for watching the John and Alex Show. You can find us on hnl.me/JohnAlex YouTube or the John. Is it JohnAndAlexShow.com?
JohnAndAlexShow.com. Yeah, I updated the website today to put a little subscribe button there. We have like 23 subscribers. Help us get to 30 so we can set a URL. That would be awesome. This is episode number 10, talking about travel. And join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to talk about life. Pop culture, everything in between.
Exactly.
Awesome. Have a good day, and we'll see you on Friday.
Peace.
Peace.